United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to the school committee meeting of Monday, February 27th, 2023. This is your notice that this meeting is being electronically recorded. We'll start tonight with our spotlight event, which is Studley Elementary School, and for introductions, I'll turn it over to Superintendent Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. We're very excited tonight to have representatives from Studley Elementary School and to talk to us a bit about student-centered coaching. I'd like to invite up our principal at Studley, Lisa Boyle.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I think it's really special that we have the opportunity to come and share with you some of the things that we get to do on a daily basis. So behind me, I have a piece of our team here representing Studley, and they will be showcasing some of our coaching cycles that we've been part of this year. We have representatives from 3rd grade and 4th grade, along with some of their teachers, and our instructional coach, who will be talking a little bit about the process and how the impact on student-centered coaching has had on them. Before I turn it over to the real show of the evening, I'd like to give you a little bit of background about the cycles and how they fit into what we're doing at school. So a little bit of background: at the elementary level, we've had coaching for a while. We've, for years, have used coaches as models for teachers to look at instructional practices, strategies, and to look and see how that can impact in the classroom. The district has made a shift this year and really focused on student-centered. And by that, it really is focused on student learning. And so we've been very fortunate to really get the ground off this year and working small doses of success to see how what we're doing is really having an impact at the student level. And so basically, with student-centered, we are focused on the student learning. Teachers identify goals that are based in the curriculum standards. Teachers work with other colleagues. There's a whole lot of shift of collaboration, looking at how do we best meet the needs of the students that are in front of us. And that could look very different from classroom to classroom. It could look different from year to year. But really looking at what do the kids in front of us need, and how do we work together to meet those needs. And the biggest shift for us has really been the use of effective data and looking at where do the kids start, is what we're doing effective, how are kids growing, what's their impact, and how are they learning, which is really the ultimate goal of what we're doing. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our 3rd grade team, which is Mrs. Kleinbrell, Mrs. Fitzgerald, our instructional coach, Mrs. Marset, and we have Jackson, Victor, Allie, and Brooklyn.
Our goal in this coaching cycle was the students would be able to answer a question in a given prompt to demonstrate understanding of a text and would be able to use evidence to support their response. They would do this while demonstrating command of grade level conventions. We chose this goal by looking at a variety of assessments such as classroom and district assessments, as well as MCAS data. We noticed that open response was an area that needed some strengthening, so we began a coaching cycle. We started by writing our team goal based on writing, reading, and language standards, and we developed learning targets and I can statements to help guide instruction. From there, we developed a baseline assessment and collected data to form instructional decisions. My teammate, Amy Fitzgerald, will now discuss the next steps we took in our coaching cycle.
Thanks, Tanya. So after we collected our baseline data, it was time to come up with a plan. Our team, including Tanya, myself, Erin Salisbury, and Nancy Lamoureux, met with Lynn Marset to develop one. We decided to begin with co-teaching a strategy called Race to the Finish, which you'll be learning more about from the kids. Lynn came to each of our classes to co-teach an introductory lesson on the strategy. After each lesson, we met in order to discuss student progress and plan what we would teach next. This pattern has been ongoing for the last couple months. Along the way, we've shared ideas and collaborated with each other to improve learner outcomes. We have been able to use the data we've collected from student work to differentiate our lessons for all learners. This coaching cycle has been beneficial to our students as a whole. When we collected our baseline data, there were almost no students who were able to call upon strategies to attack an open response question. And now a majority of our third graders are able to confidently approach these questions using the race to the finish strategy. Participating in this coaching cycle has been beneficial to our team as well. So often we have time to work together to plan, but the implementation of those plans are usually performed as a single teacher. This time, we've had the opportunity to co-teach with a gifted instructor, Mrs. Marcette, which has given us all tools to work with in the future. Most importantly, this experience has been helpful to our students. Seeing their increased confidence in writing has made our teacher hearts happy, and seeing their writing become stronger is proof of how well this model can work.
So now we're going to hear from the students. So Jackson, Victor, Allie, and Brooklyn are going to share the race to the finish strategy with you.
Restate the question. When you restate the question, you use words from the question to start your answer. For example, if the question is the word would you use to describe how the school committee feels about our presentation, we will restate the question by saying one word to describe how the school committee feels about our presentation is...
Answer the question. When you answer the question, guess what you do? That's right, you answer the question. For example, if we use the same question from before, the answer can be any of the following: excited, joyful, proud, curious, for our purpose. Let's pick joyful.
Cite text evidence. When you cite text evidence, you look for ways to support your answer. For example, if we were to cite text evidence about how we know the school committee was joyful, we could say that there were many smiling faces and expressions of joy.
Explain your answer. When you explain, you wrap up your response. You can do this by using a sentence starter like, I know that, this shows, the evidence shows. For example, to explain our thinking about the school committee's feelings, we could say, this shows the school committee is joyful.
So now let's put it all together. The question was, what is one word to describe how the school committee feels about our presentation? One word to describe how the school committee feels about our presentation is joyful. According to our observations, there are many smiling faces and expressions of joy. This shows the school committee is joyful. And this is our race to the finish strategy to answer our open response questions. So I just have a question for all of you. How has this strategy helped you with your open response writing? Allie.
It made me more confident.
Ooh, I love it. It's confident. Nice. Brooklyn, what would you think?
Before I would just answer the question. Now I know how to restate, answer, cite text evidence, and explain.
Good. Jackson, how are you?
Before I didn't know how to restate the question, now I know how to restate the question.
Awesome. And you, Victor?
When you use the race strategy, you can restate the question, answer the question, cite text evidence, and explain your question. That helps your writing get easier and better.
You can see we've had a lot of progress with our writing. Excellent. So I just want to share a slide with you of some of the students in action. So we used a lot of anchor charts to make sure that the students knew what the steps were. And then we had multiple opportunities for whole group lessons, for small group lessons, and for individualized work time, depending on the needs of the students. And a slide for our data. So part of the process is looking at what the baseline data was and then taking data points along the way to see how the students are progressing. So we scored this on a 3-point rubric. So 3 being full understanding. At the beginning, only 11% of our students were there. Now we have 53% of our students there. For the partial understanding, it was 11%. Now we're at 26%. And as Mrs. Fitzgerald spoke before, we had almost no students really understanding it at the beginning. So minimal to no understanding was 78%, and now we're only at 21% that are still working on that. And we're seeing progress every time we work with them. So those numbers are increasing daily. So thank you to the grade 3 teachers and the grade 3 students. Nice job. Mrs. Crocker, Stella, and Katie to come forward to talk to you about our fourth grade coaching cycle.
Okay, so at the start of the year, Mrs. Marset approached me to propose a coaching cycle. I felt a good focus for my students would be to develop fluency for their multiplication facts. Developing an automaticity of facts would not only help the children with their multiplication, but their division, fractions, and other math concepts to come. Mrs. Marset and I met to determine our goals. We pre-assessed the students to determine the strategies they used when multiplying and what they were already fluent with. We scheduled weekly math skills centers with the class and co-planned regularly to discuss our observations and to further plan instruction.
So now Stella and Katie are going to demonstrate one of the games we played called Headbands. So the purpose of the game is to tie a visual representation to the fact that they're learning, so they can make sense of what that fact means. And the goal is for all students to become automatic, but also to give students strategies if they're not there yet. Okay.
4 groups of 8. 4 times 8 equals 32. 7 groups of 8. 7 times 8 equals 56. 6 groups of 8. 6 times 8 equals 48. 9 groups of 8.
So Katie, if you don't know that fact, and you know 8 times 10, how can you use that to help you with that fact?
I could subtract 8 from 80.
So taking one group of 8 away from that 80, and what would you get?
72.
Nice. So just using those strategies if they don't have it automatically to get them to that point of being automatic. Thank you, girls. I have one question for you. How did playing these games help you to do your work now in your regular math classrooms? Go ahead, Katie.
Whenever I'm working on any math, it's easier and I know the answers faster.
Nice. How about you, Stella?
It helps me with my division more.
Helps with division. Nice connection, right, between multiplication and division. Good. And Mrs. Crocker, can you share what you are seeing in the classroom now?
Yeah. So as a result, the students have developed increased independence, as you've heard, and that they are also, I'm noticing that they're not using their multiplication charts at the beginning of 4th grade. They're like going to the multiplication charts frequently. That's not happening. I'm barely seeing them out right now. And just an overall notice that they are improving in their recall and their automaticity. When working with fractions, students are better able to use multiplication to identify equivalent fractions and convert an improper fraction to a mixed number and vice versa. And to extend their skills development, Mrs. Marset and I provided the students with independent practice that incorporates word problems to reinforce the games we've played. They all seem more confident in their abilities, and it's been a pleasure to be part of their growth.
So just another slide to share with you them in action in the classroom. So we played different games. We did this headbands one. We also played like a memory game where they had to match the fact, but each time having to say it before they were able to get the match. And then we played a go fish game. So all of these just really connecting that visual to what the fact was so that they had something to hold on to when they were doing it. And looking at the data for this. So when we started our baseline, we had students who were fluent in foundational facts. So those easier facts that you can use to build the harder ones. We had 80% of our students that were there, and now we have 90% of our students that are there. So students who are fluent in derived facts, so the 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9, which are a little more difficult, we only had 15% of our students there. We now have 42% of our students there. And then students who are fluent in all facts, we started with 11%, and now we're at 20%. And each student is moving along with facts. So as soon as they're fluent in one, we move them along to another. And we have 55% of our students have gained fluency in 3 or more multiplication tables during this period of about 6 weeks. So we're seeing some really wonderful growth. All right, we'll pass it back to Mrs. Boyle.
So, I want to thank my Studley Stars for coming. You all did a really great job demonstrating the work that we've been doing. You know, Mrs. Fitzgerald talked about her teacher heart being happy, but it makes my heart happy that the conversations that we've been having around student learning and looking at individual students and their needs and moving everybody along so that everybody's making growth in a focused and targeted way is really what we strive to do. And so we've seen great progress in the short amount of time we've been really kind of trying to work this out. And I am so excited to see what this will come in the future because it's only positive things that are coming from it. So thank you very much. If you have any questions?
Questions or comments? Mr. Geddes?
A quick comment. First, congratulations to all the kids. Thank you very much for coming. You all did a great job. I hope you're all getting a ton of Studley stars tomorrow morning from Ms. Boyle for this.
They already got a golden one, so.
Nice, nice. I think over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of concern about rebounding from the pandemic. And so seeing tools like this put into place, especially at the elementary level, is very promising for recovering from that. So I'm grateful to see it. Thank you for showing it to us and for all the educators for implementing it.
Mr. Larson?
Again, I'd like to also say thank you for, you guys did a fantastic job, and yes, we are definitely joyful looking at your presentation. Quite honestly, I'm not sure in 3rd or 4th grade I could have sat in front of the school committee and had all the same fun that you guys just showed us. And so thanks for bringing your classroom to us so we can see what you guys are doing. Looks like fantastic work.
Mr. Storrs?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, we always talk about how standardized testing is not the only metric by which we need to look at the student and determine how students are developing. This is a great example of other types of things that we can use, that you guys can use to determine how students are doing, how the teachers, the classrooms are doing, and I think it's great.
So I guess I'll just say, you know, we talk about wanting to provide relevant learning experiences, and from my perspective as someone who, you know, works with a lot of reading and writing on a daily basis and arguing, you know, seeing the open response thing really is impressive to me and important to me because that's, you know, the exact type of work that I do on a daily basis and have used through high school, college, and now in my career. So I'm really happy to see that being implemented at such a young age. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have the students come up and take some pictures with that? Should we have the students?
Do
You guys want to come up and just like sit at the table and take some pictures for a couple minutes? Yeah. Mom and Dad, if you want, you can stand over here and get a better shot from the, I saw all the cameras in the back. Take a picture with your heads. You want to come over here and take a picture, you can see in front of your children.
Yeah, you guys should sit down in the chairs.
Oh yeah, definitely, take the chairs. Huh? Oh yeah, slide all over.
Put one next to it, you guys can all get it.
There you go.
There's a chair open. Oh, yes, there's a chair.
To see some joyful faces.
Yeah. Big smiles. All right. Thank you. Great job.
Turn that off.
All you need is a Spider-Man.
All right, next we have our superintendent's report, and for that I will turn it over to Superintendent Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. As the entire community should know by now, we have canceled school for tomorrow. It was a bit of a borderline call to do it tonight versus tomorrow morning. We're expecting about 5 inches locally The timing is a real key factor, and that 5 inches is a little bit beyond what we can safely handle. So for those reasons, and the confidence that the National Weather Service has in the forecast at this time was part of what factored into that judgment that we're always trying to make about wanting to wait as long as we can in the hopes that we'll have school versus giving parents as much time as possible to make the necessary arrangements when we're not. And so based on those factors, we did decide to call it tonight to give parents that chance to make those arrangements. Now that we've done that, it'll be sunny at 7 a.m. and we'll regret that choice. But again, felt pretty confident that conditions for tomorrow are bad enough that even a delay wasn't going to help us to be able to do that safely. And so we have canceled. As, again, everyone is well aware, we have an election tomorrow, and I just wanted to reassure the community that despite the cancellation of school, the polling locations at both Coelho and Willett will be open and accessible, and all of our resources will be prioritizing those schools so that voters will be able to access the polls safely as best we can under those conditions. I'm sure the Election Commission is asking people to put off voting until later in the day when the snow will have stopped, but whatever the hours of operation, I forget exactly what time that the polls open.
7 to 8.
Yeah, we'll be there well ahead of that, ensuring that people can park and access the building safely. So we are prepared for that, and wanted to make sure that the community knew that they could expect that from us. I have a brief budget update for you this evening. Last week, the foundation budget was released. The number presented in that release puts Attleboro at $97.1 million. Assuming a continued commitment from the new mayor, and that is an assumption. I want to remind everybody that under net school spending, no one's required to do that, and we'll have to work with whoever is victorious in the election. But assuming that commitment is honored by the new mayor, as has been for the last several years, we would anticipate the budget to be coming in a little bit over $98 million. That's because even though we get $2 million as part of the mayor's commitment, again, historically, the city also takes credits, and that cuts into that $2 million figure, which is why it fluctuates from year to year, but it's around an additional $1 million to whatever that net school spending number is when all is said and done. This figure will be very important to us because, as we've discussed on multiple occasions, we have exposure to ESSER liabilities that we need to address, and this budget number that we're seeing initially would help us to do some important work towards preparing for the next fiscal year, which is the one in which ESSER goes away. So we are hopeful that all of this holds, and are optimistic that if we minimally hold pat as to what has been the recent trend in funding, that will put us in a place where we can make some progress on that. We did learn today that the cherry sheet and governor's budgets were released, or at least that's the rumor. Have not had a chance to take a look at those numbers, but there's no reason to believe that they are much different from the number that we received last week. So there'll be a lot of work done in the next couple of weeks to really dig in and to look at all the figures to see if there are any reasons for concern, and then we'll await working with the new mayor to arrive at a proposed budget as part of that process that March is later this week, so it's that season. So just wanted to give you an update as to what to expect. Questions about that?
Mr. Geddes?
If you could remind us, what were we projecting to be at when I know we last got a budget presentation, I think it was at the end of December.
Yeah.
And we were kind of in this area,
Yes,
right?
we're close.
Okay.
Yep. I'll say it this way. If the numbers play out and recent trends continue in terms of city funding, we'll be about where we need to be. Not ahead, which is where we'd like to be, right? We talk about trying to close that gap that keeps widening from a funding perspective. This doesn't do anything for that, but at least we wouldn't lose more ground if, in fact, all that plays out. But if it comes in less than that, for any reason, including decisions not to continue certain practices, we would be in a lot of trouble.
I couldn't remember if, for some reason, 96 million was in my head. So I think we were Mr. Furtado's nodding over your shoulder, so it's, or in
If you'd
December.
like to give us a number, you certainly
Yeah,
are
that
open
was
to it.
96, for level services, not making any changes, improvements, and with a lot of assumptions about cost factors like health insurance and new labor contracts that may or may not hold. Yeah, it was 96.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on. I'm sure you've noticed that Assistant Superintendent Regan is not here this evening, which is a very unusual set of circumstances. And no, she's not at the playoff basketball game. She's at the WISE annual meeting where she had planned to need to be this evening, representing Attleboro Schools because that's such a valued partnership. I wanted to acknowledge that the Y is having a difficult time right now, and that the school department wants to make it very clear that we are proud partners and continue to be proud partners with the Y. These are two great institutions who serve this community well, especially its youth, and the work that we do together is far more important than any particular individual who does the work. So we are happy to continue with that work, and we'll be standing with the Y through what is to come for them. But we value them and are happy to continue that work. The only other business I have for you this evening is I need to request that you consider accepting an amended BICO agreement. BICO is moving to accept CCONC into the collaborative. So,
All right, so the proposed amended agreement was circulated with the materials. The essential change is just adding BICO to the collaborative, so I'd entertain a motion to accept the BICO amended agreement for the BICO Bi-County Educational Collaborative as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
Just one quick.
Yeah, Mrs. Joyce?
When I know it hasn't happened very often, but when we do add new districts, does that impact our students' services in any way?
it has the potential of having that impact, which is why the collaborative in my 7 years has been somewhat guarded about bringing in new members. In fact, previous requests have, been met with skepticism because there was so much demand for the seats that, it didn't seem to be in the interest of the members to, expand the group. But the pandemic has significantly changed the situation, the conditions for BICO. In fact, a year ago, there was real concern about its financial viability moving forward based on reduced enrollment. For various factors, we don't have the same numbers that we were enjoying pre-pandemic. That has not fully rebounded. And so the feeling amongst the board, because we did vote to propose this and to approve this proposal, and the feeling there was that we could use the extra enrollment to help stabilize the collaborative and its long-term health.
Just a quick follow-up.
Sure.
As our representative on the BICO board, you personally have no reservations?
I support this.
Thank you.
Mr. Geddes?
So to your point, is there consideration that other communities may be joining in the future, or is that
There
nothing
aren't any
foreseeable?
at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyer. Next, we have our minutes from our February 6, 2023 meeting. The minutes were circulated with your materials. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, edits? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Consent agenda, just 3 items tonight. Motion to accept a check in the amount of $5,506 from Chipotle for the class of 2023. Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $73.43 from Chipotle to the National Honor Society at the high school. Motion to accept payment in the amount of $17.75 from Bay State Textiles to Hill Roberts.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Open forum. Is there anyone who would like to address the committee at open forum tonight? All right, seeing nobody, I'll close open forum. Any new business tonight? All right, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.